Thanks for coming to my talk. How much time do I have? I don't want to keep people too late.
Yeah,
but
probably 30 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to keep this brief. So this talk is about writing custom Ansible modules. How many of y'all have heard about Ansible? Okay, how many of y'all use it? Yay! Okay, great. I will explain what it is, so don't worry. So who am I? I am Bianca Henderson. I am currently a software engineer at Anaconda. I previously worked at Red Hat, specifically on AWX, which is the open source version of Ansible Tower. And I used to do technical support, blah, blah, blah. I love creating CLIs and games and all the other things that are listed on there. I also want to mention that this will be, these are all available, these slides, on my repo, which I will share later. So you can catch up on things if I'm, kind of zooming through stuff. So what does this talk about? It's about writing your own Ansible modules and not having it be super intimidating. It's a pretty simple process once you understand what the parallels are. There's a wide range of use cases and things like that. This talk is for anyone who has used Ansible or is thinking about using it. If you want to expand the current functionality of your playbooks. And also, if you don't know what Ansible is, if you're curious about like what to do with your Python scripts, this is one of the things. Okay, so Ansible is an ID automation tool. It's kind of like Terraform is another one that does similar things, but it can, it's basically like a sysadmin's best friend. It can do, zero downtime rolling updates. It can also deploy websites, things like that. The way that it's done is it uses Ansible playbooks, which are written in YAML, and there's tasks that you carry out, and you call modules within those tasks to do the things that you want it to do. Ansible host machines communicate via SSH. The host machine needs to be either Linux or Mac, but the controlled nodes can be Windows, which is great. It's free and open source, which is wonderful. And it's pretty batteries included because there's a lot of modules out there. But as this talk will show you, it's also extremely customizable. I'm just going to check the chat here real quick and make sure people can hear. Okay. This is the only slide I'm going to read because I don't like doing that. And I need to hide my camera thing here. Sorry. Okay. So Ansible modules are reusable standalone scripts that Ansible runs on your behalf, either locally or remotely. Modules interact with your local machine, an API, or a remote system to perform specific tasks. It provides a defined interface, accepts arguments, and returns information to Ansible by printing a JSON string to standard out before exiting. That's all it is. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to go over some pretty like you must know this kind of stuff. The Ansible modules are formatted with these specific things, right? And I'm going to actually sort of highlight these in the examples that I show later, but there needs to be a Python shebang, copyright and license, all the things that are listed there, except the return block is optional, but yeah, so these are the order in which a module is written and put together. If you want more information, go ahead and go to my presentation on my repo, and you can click on that link that says related documentation. If I did not show you this, it would be like giving you a steering wheel to a spaceship, but not the spaceship, and just being like, good luck. So this is how you actually run your module. So you need to have on your top level directory an Ansible config, which I will show the contents of, a library directory, and then the module inside it. And then the playbook will be on the top level with the Ansible config and the library directory. The Ansible config will contain something like this. So it'll be like, hey, library equals that directory. So you can actually name it something else, but it's just kind of nice to keep it parallel. And then the retry files enabled is just an option that you can set to false. Okay, so we're going to look at actual Python code. We're going to start really simple, and we're going to do math with Ansible. And then we're going to expand on that. So first, summing two numbers with Python. Pretty simple, right? There's two arguments, first number, the second number, you sum it, and then output, ta-da, pretty basic stuff. So we're going to turn that into a module. Now, keep in mind, this is a lot of text, right? It's like just for 3 lines. Why am I doing this? I just want to start simple. And there's kind of this like crossover for where like it's too simple to make it worth it to be an Ansible module. But then once you get a little more complex, it's a lot more worth it. But all right, so as you see here, there's the shebang and the UTF-8 encoding, metadata, documentation. And the slides go all the way to the bottom. So I don't know if folks in the audience are gonna not be able to see. If you can hide that, yeah, if you can just, I think that'll minimize it. You can click on this little thing here. Yeah, and then move it. Yeah, sorry, a lot of this is going to be like tiny text, so apologies. But now you can see the whole screen. The example block there is going to show what, like, you can just copy and paste it theoretically and just put it in your playbook. That's what an example block should look like. And then your Python imports and then your actual code, right? So that is actually how it's done in Ansible, where that first argument, if you remember, number 1 and then number 2. And here I'm actually using the string format because I'm going to turn them into integers down here. You can see my mouse, right? I'm not just like blindly talking about something. Okay, and I actually brought a laser pointer, but there's 2 screens. So, and then there's a try except. So if it's not the right kind of value or whatever, it'll be like, hey, you know, you need to do summable integers. Pretty straightforward. So I'm really sorry about the fuzzy screenshot of this. They get better later. So the run addition module is just the name of the task. You can say whatever you want there. That's basically kind of like a roadmap of like, hey, this is the task that ran, right? So you can put anything you want there. Some people don't name their tasks, which is, I wouldn't do that. Sum2 module is the name of the module. So the Ansible module's name was sum2 module.py. And that's what you're doing here is you're saying, hey, I want to use that module. And then the first number is 3, second number is 2. Oh, and I need to point out, by the way, that there's default numbers here. So if you don't put anything in those arguments, it'll still just add 0 and 1, which is really nice. And then you can sum the results and debug, which just prints the variable that you point to. And when you run it, it looks like this. We're going to run stuff live later, so don't worry. But I didn't want to do that for every single example. But yeah, so yeah, 3 and 5, it'll output 8. Yay, success. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be able to roll some D&D dice with Ansible. This is a really simple, straightforward Python script that basically just takes a random integer from the range of 1 through 20, and then it just gives you whatever. So it's like rolling 1 D20, right? And then it just exits. For a module, what we're going to do is, or what I did, is I made it more flexible where it's like, hey, we can actually do any number of, because in D&D there's D4, D8, D10, D12, there's like all kinds of stuff. So you can just have a custom, you know, whatever number of die sides that you need. And but if you don't put something, it'll default to 20. And then the number of rolls will default to 1. But you can roll, like, for example, like 10 D12s if you need. So this is how it looks when it's a module, as far as like the code goes. So you're importing random and then JSON, and then you have the first argument here, die side number, and then the number of those dice. And then your this one is actually an integer format, and it'll fail out if it's not an integer. And then you roll it, and it'll print out what the actual result was. So here is a playbook task that rolls 5 D12s. So yeah, that's very similar to the one before with the adding. But before we run this, what we're going to do is we're going to go back and refactor that first module to take a list, because I can't just roll 2 dice, you know, every time and then add them or whatever. I want to have a flexible way to basically roll dice and then add the total together and show me what it is. So here it is with, I just changed it from the 2 arguments to 1, and it is in list format. So what you will do is when you run that previous D20 module, you take that and output it into a list, and then this, and then register it to a variable, which this module that now adds, you know, a multiple numbers is going to pick up and then add for you. As you can see here, there's a list 3, 5, and 9. That's just an example. In our case, we're going to roll it as a variable, as you see here. So damage results. We're going to roll 4 d8s and then get the damage total here. So this is what it looks like when you roll it. That's a real bad roll. So I put a grimace face because I couldn't believe it. The lowest you can get is a 4, highest is a 32. We can actually roll this again and see if we get a better result here. Because I, just so you can see what it looks like live. I think I'm in the right directory. Okay. It's really fast. So that's a better roll. But yeah, you can see here, it just outputs into a, you know, a list of what you got, and then it adds it up for you. So there you go. All right, so a lot of folks here might be into, you know, data. The purpose of this was so if I wanted to, I could look at like X number of top stories on, I don't know, I just picked Hacker News for this one. So I don't endlessly scroll like the whole page, you know, and just keep going and going, and I can just get back to work or whatever, to my coffee. So you can output a specific number. Here, I actually hard coded it to 30. So submission IDs up to 30 in range. And then there's a dictionary of all the things that you can get from the API of Hacker News, which includes title, the link, story ID, score, author, comments. It's pretty self-explanatory there. So how does this look as a module? It actually looks really similar. So I know this is small. I'm gonna kind of go back and forth. You see up here and stuff, the URL, R, and print, like that's exactly the same, basically. So it's just like in a function. And what I changed about this though, is I made it so that the story ID, author, and comments were optional. So if I put, or if I didn't put anything in there, it defaults to false. So it doesn't show me all this stuff if I don't want to see it. The title and the score and the Hacker News link are not really optional. Those are like kind of the point of the whole thing. So I didn't put that as options, but the optional entries are Booleans. So if you put true, it'll show you that. If you don't put anything, or if you put false, it won't show you. And then the default number of stories is 1. But yeah, so this is how it looks. I know I'm kind of blowing through this really quickly. Like I said, it's all on my repo, so you can look at the code and, you know, modify it as you want if you care to. And then here's the documentation that just kind of shows those options again, and what format those should be in. Okay, and then here's what the playbook task looks like. HN top stories is the name of the module. I'm going to get 20 stories. I want to see all of the things, story ID, author, comments, and then register to top stories and print it out. So, okay, I'm going to get into how to run all this stuff and set up your environment, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to just show you what this looks like. All right, let me actually change this because I commented out certain parts. So I'm going to comment this out, and then I'm just going to run this, which is what you saw earlier. And I'm going to run the same command again. So it's going to think for a bit while it gets the stuff. There we go. So, you know, you can use this for a lot of things. And just kind of, and which I'll show you. You can use this with other Ansible modules to deploy a static HTML site, actually. So the next demo playbook, I'm actually going to cat this playbook so that you can see. I'm going to go into the demo directory and then cat demo playbook. So I'm going to just have this out and kind of go back and forth. So this playbook is going to just get the content from Hacker News. I changed the module just a little bit so that it converts things to HTML format. Yeah.
How do you get it to filter out the recruiting ads?
I don't think you can do that. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, if it's a story, then it's going to show up. Hopefully people don't upvote it too much. That probably is the only way. But yeah, sorry, I can't help you there. Maybe you can figure that out. But yeah, so so as you can see here, the output in the format string, it's all HTML, and it's going to so it's going to get that format as HTML, and it's going to create a www directory using the file module. So you'll see here Ansible.builtin, that's a collection. When I first started at Ansible, there was like, I think 1,500 modules that it shipped with, which is like now, and it seemed like a lot, but now it's like hundreds of thousands, I think. And it got really crazy. So what they did was to solve the problem of just bloat and confusion, they changed them into, they gathered them into collections. So Ansible built-in are basically the default modules that used to ship with Ansible. So if you use just file, I think it'll still work. It's like backwards compatible. But anyway, this is the proper way to invoke it. And then the third task is going to create an HTML file with what the news results thing got using the copy module. So that creates a file. And then we're going to check for Docker or Podman to be installed. I don't know if y'all use either of those on a daily basis, but it's going to give you the option of either. So if you have Docker or Podman, make sure it's on. And so it's going to do that. And then it's going to set your or check for permissions with set fact. And then the last task is it's going to run an Nginx container. So that's right here. Web server using Docker or Podman to serve the static index.html file. And we checked before if you have Docker or Podman. So depending on what it is, it'll kind of go into like an if then sort of thing and use either one that you have. All right, so that's what this demo will do. Now, actually, I'm going to go over the environment. So I work at Anaconda, so I'm going to talk about Conda a little bit. What I did for this demo was I created a Conda environment that has the following things installed in it. So if you have these, because I actually have a make file too, so you can just make run if you want. I'm going to actually do the Ansible playbook option instead. But yeah, I made it as simple as possible for y'all if you want to use this later. And then I keep doing that instead of going to the next slide. Sorry about that. How to create and use compatible Conda environment is just these two simple commands. And then you're going to want to install stuff after you create that environment and get into it. Ansible is pip installable. So you would just do that. And also, if you don't have Conda, I put the installer link on here. So you can just click that and go straight to it. So yeah, you'll see here. My environment name is Ansible. I did all the things that, I mentioned in the slide. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run this demo playbook. Fingers crossed. A lot of people were like, you should record this just in case. And I was like, no, I'm going to just run it live. It's going to work. It's thinking. Then it created an HTML file. Woohoo! Oh, and I forgot to say that it's all on port 888. So let's see. What we're going to do is go into, I'm sorry, this like Zoom menu is like in the way of everything. So, all right. So local host 888. And there we go. Yay! And if you click on it, it'll go to the page. And then you can click on the story and you can just read those things that came out and get back to your day after reading the top things. And you'll see here, the points and all that kind of stuff are showing. Yeah, and I don't know why. I'm sorry, that's messy, but hey, I will clean that up later. But yeah, so that's this demo, and we're gonna get back into kind of recapping here. All right, so conclusions. So think of playbook options as arguments in a function. That's all it is. Like before I got taught by, so I got taught by a solutions architect who was really great at breaking stuff down. People tried to teach me before and I was just like, I don't get it. He was just like, these are just playbook options or arguments in a function, and that just becomes options. That's it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And you need to adhere to the format and syntax. You can use them in combination with standard modules, as you saw, in order to expand the functionality of any playbook that you have. And you can also host your modules on Ansible Galaxy in your own collections. I'm not going to get into that right now because it's kind of, there's a whole thing about collections. I could do an entire talk about those, but yeah, so you can post those if you make any of your own modules and want to share. And I thought I clicked, okay, there we go. So there's reference materials, documentation. Also at the bottom here, so I have a DevOps friend, coworker, former coworker, and I taught him this stuff and I showed him this presentation, and he was the one who was like, hey, why don't we turn this into HTML and make like this, more complicated thing. So I want to give him credit, and he's also noted on my repo. But he's a whiz. So, if you want to visit his repo, there it is. And then this is where you can find today's presentation and demo materials. I don't know if you want to take a photo of that or whatever, maybe I can just go back to it. But yeah, my name is B-E-E-A. That's not how you actually spell my name, but that's just how it is on GitHub. And that's my talk. So thank you. I'll go back to this page just in case, but does anyone have questions? Oh my gosh, okay. Yes.
I mean, I'm a sysadmin by nature and here now. So generally,
can you please repeat the question, whatever is being heard, so we can get it recorded?
Yeah.
Configurations across systems. So in these types of cases, we're kind of using a more like desktop type environment. What would be the benefit of? I mean, I kind of already know the answer, but what would be the benefit of using this over just a collection of scripts or just functions with arguments?
Well, I guess, so it would be better to make a custom Ansible versus module versus just scripts, because if you want to interact with other modules, right, that are shipped as default. And the reason that you might want to make a custom Ansible module as a sysadmin is so you can, go to the API of something that you can't do from like another module that's already out there. If there's some kind of proprietary thing that you need to get into and you have a script for it and you want it to work with your playbooks, now you can convert them. So that's basically, yeah.
Or you don't need to build in like user interactivity to the scripts or
right.
hard code all of your values.
Right. You can just have stuff just work and have default values just in case, or not, or make it more secure or not, it's really flexible. So, yeah. Yeah.
So for an Ansible module, how would you like write tests for it? Like for instance, let's say you want to make a compatibility matrix for different like Ansible versions. Like you can't guarantee your model to be compatible with like every Ansible version ever released or that ever will be released. So how would you test that type of compatibility, or like just test in general to see like, okay, this is the model.
Yeah.
Do what it's supposed to do, like unit test the model.
I'm going to actually show you a place that will answer that question for you. So, oops, I'm going to go to a pull request that I did. Sorry, this is like in my search history. Okay, so I created the Awx Collection, which is basically what talks to Ansible Tower is what it was called. The UI, right, via an Ansible module, which was not done before. And as you can see here, we have tests for them. Tests are basically playbooks. That's all it is. Like you're just running, like you can't really do, I think you can actually put them into something like Jenkins and have them run automatically. But like, for example, let's see, is this a test playbook? Yeah. So these are just test playbooks where it's like generate ID, go into this inventory, and then do the things. Does it fail? Does it not fail? And so you can do all those things.
Run like a playbook with the module.
With the module, correct.
And then you just
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you can test via playbooks too, and you can pull these into Jenkins or whatever. Yeah. So does that answer? Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Yep.
I never occurred to me to.
It's,
So,
yeah, it didn't to us either until we had to do this, and we are like, hey, why don't we just make playbooks to test this? And it was pretty great because you can also use vaults to do like credentials and stuff, so it can be secure and everything. Does anyone else have questions? Yes.
I have like smaller syntax ones, like I saw one of the main ones is what is Conda? I saw you did the Conda install.
Yeah.
I assume there's other packages besides Ansible could do so.
Mhm. Conda is a package management software basically for Python or R currently. But my colleague Cheng is here, and I'm like nervous answering this because he's like the expert, you know, on this. But yeah, so and some other colleagues are here as well. But yeah, it basically takes care of dependency management for you. So you can just request certain packages, and it'll be like, oh, it needs this and this and this, and it just does it in the background.
How do you install a collection of Ansible modules as well?
I don't think you can install a collection of Ansible modules. All you have to do to use a collection of modules is to point to it in your playbook task. Like that's pretty much it, because Ansible knows what you're talking about. They're all just like, as long as you have internet connection, like it's all there. So yeah, you just need to point to the right thing. So yep. Yeah. Anyone else?
Not brand new to
Conda.
So it also does virtual environment management too.
That's pretty much what, yeah, it's kind of because like I used to do, yeah, virtual M's all the time and resisted, you know, anything super easy. And Conda is just incredibly easy. Like you can just, all of these are basically virtual environments that I use at work. So, yeah. my terminal colors. But yeah, it's there's a lot you can do. So yep. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? No? Okay. I hope that was clear. I hope that wasn't super confusing or too, yeah. Okay, great. But yeah, check out my repo and you know, feel free to take this stuff and do your own things with it. That would make me very happy. So, all right, thank you.
So I guess there are things to talk about like rooms,
Lauren, speak up.
Oh, we never looked at Zoom questions. We never looked at Zoom chat questions.
Oh crap, sorry. Okay, here, I'm gonna sit down and see, can you give, okay. And I'm sorry that I never muted either, so I said, oh crap, on the recording. So yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't repeat what the questions were. Let's see, can you give some examples of what is Ansible used for on a regular basis? Okay, so that I'm going to just go back and share my screen for that one and just show you. These are just kind of the top things, like configuring systems, deploying software, orchestrating continuous deployments, updates on servers and things like that. That is a lot of what Ansible is used for. Okay, let's see. Will the slide deck be shared? Yes. You know what? I can put this in the chat, can't I? So here you go. Yes, that's my repo there. So check it out. And yeah, are there any other questions? Oops, sorry, Sherry, I did not mean to just privately share with you. Yep, all right. I don't know how to use Zoom apparently. Anyone else? All right. I'm going to disconnect here if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the D20 plus adding thing kind of showed that. If you want to get a little bit more on chaining things, like you can actually chain playbooks as roles. So you can do this and make roles. Like they're like the zip ties to your cables, right? Like it just kind of cleans things up. So
Okay.
Yeah.
The sort of chaining and dependency management is something Ansible actually does like super excellently well.
Super well.
Yeah.
Okay. It really does. They make it like a no-brainer. Yeah. But thanks for asking that. Yeah.
Is there a transform you can do with the playbook if you have to use the module instead of the D20 returns a list of objects that you want to only get and attribute not this?
You can, yeah, you can totally do that. You can basically register it as a variable and then do a like dot list index one. Yeah, you can there's a YAML format way to do it, like with the double squiggly and quotes and whatever. So, sorry to be not specific, but yeah, there's ways to do it for sure. You can extract certain information. Yep. Or convert it into a different data type. It's really flexible. Yes.
Kind of dumb question that I think is probably more or less useless, but would you ever call Ansible from like Subprocessor Os System from a Python script, like metafy that shit?
You could, right? Why not? I mean, I don't know. I would try it. Yeah, I don't think I've done that before or heard of it, but I think that would be an exciting way to use it for sure.
You can do it from Terraform.
Yeah.
So what we do at Anaconda is how we deploy our build system. Terraform lays down infrastructure and then Ansible.
Oh.
So you can call from Go.
Cool. Yeah, it's like pretty like versatile. You can also feel free to, I mean, I don't know if my contact information's on there, but you can email me whatever stuff is listed.
All right, well, thanks so much. I'll stop the recording right now. So cool.